For the rest of our days, we will never forget the novel coronavirus outbreak. It brought our lives to a sudden standstill. There were cancellations and lockdowns, but those seemed to be minor inconveniences compared to the lives that were lost around the world. Some thought the pandemic was political and would be gone by the time the 2020 election was over, while there were others who still believe it was a hoax brought on by the government, a hoax that killed more than 20,000 people in Michigan, 34 right here in Presque County. As soon as the first cases were confirmed in Michigan, colleges closed and K-12 public and private schools followed. It was only supposed to be until Easter. Healthcare and assisted living facilities went into lockdown mode to prevent the spread to the most vulnerable. On March 16, 2020, Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer issued an order to close all bars and restaurants. On March 23, 2020, a stay-at-home order was issued forcing all non-essential workers to stay home. It was not until Memorial Day weekend did restaurants reopen in Rogers City, providing optimism that a corner was turned. It was nowhere near the case, and they were shut down again before the firearm deer season as numbers began to soar. In the middle of summer, Rogers City High School's graduating seniors from the class of 2020 received their diplomas at Gilpin Memorial Field. Graduates were seated on chairs on the field 6 feet apart, facing the football stands. School started after Labor Day to in-person learning, with students wearing masks and plastic barriers between desks. In the final months of 2020, Rogers City saw some of its worst numbers, and that was nowhere more apparent than at Meadow Lodge of Rogers City, where staff and residents were hit hard for the first time, causing employees to be sent home for 2 weeks at a time and resulting in the deaths of some residents of the facility. Optimism grew in December 2020 when vaccines were approved by the Federal Drug Administration. First vaccines in Rogers City went to emergency personnel. One emergency worker after another rolled up their sleeves to get their first of 2 shots. Second shot will be an important booster the following month. Into 2021, it became painfully apparent that the federal government failed to keep the flow of COVID-19 vaccines going and supplies dried up. The only good news in early February 2021 was the number of reported cases and hospitalizations were starting to trend down. Vaccine supplies improved, and one by one, residents took turns at pharmacies and health clinics getting the vaccine. Life was slowly, with an emphasis on a snail pace, back to semblance of normalcy, but with many folks not interested in getting the vaccine for various reasons, I was concerned that the silent killer will still have its way with vulnerable people. As we all know, life is fragile and sometimes unfair, but God's will brought us to where we are today, survivors who need to remember.